Welcome to the Level Up Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, John. I have my Level Up analyst for the night. I have Mr. CJ, I have Wes, and I also have James. And we're going to get into a lot of topics dealing with the NFL draft. We're going to talk about the crazy game today with the Golden State Warriors having now have to play in a play-in game on Tuesday. And we'll also talk about why are NBA coaches getting fired and they won a championship like just a couple years ago. And lastly, we'll also get into some things that's going along with the college football ranks where players is starting to get cut off from the team just because they didn't get their money. We'll let you know who that is later on the show. All right, so we're going to get in for the night, guys. First question for the night, and I'll start this one off. The question is, what quarterback prospect will have the most success in year one? And for me, that guy is right there. Mr. Cam Ward. All right, so Mr. Cam Ward, if you didn't know him, get ready because I believe the Tennessee Titans will be picking him. It won't take the commissioner long to put his name out from the team selected. I think he's gonna be number one. I also think he's gonna be very similar to what we saw with CJ's team out of the Commanders. Uh, I think he's gonna be lights out. First year, he may not even have all the weapons yet, but you're gonna see in the first year he gets the ball out very fast. He's accurate. He threw for 4,313 yards last year. He had 39 touchdowns, seven interceptions. He rushed the ball not a whole lot. He had 204 yards, but he also had four touchdowns. So he's a pocket passer. He sees the field well. He's very accurate, but he can throw it down the field if he needs to, and he gets the ball out and he's very decisive. So I think he is going to be the first one uh, that's going to be the most successful quarterback out of this NFL draft. And I do believe he will be selected first going to the Tennessee Titans. Let me see what you guys think, starting with CJ, and then we'll go to Wes, and then we'll go to James.
I'll probably go with Shador.
All right. So you're going with that guy. All right.
Don't know where he's going, but I feel like in the years that he was at Colorado, you saw him play at Colorado, and then Jack State. I mean, he was straight. He performed, um, and he's trained under. Um, so because he's worked with his dad, he's trained under Tom Brady too. So Tom Brady's supposed to be some type of goat out here for some folks. So with that in mind, I think Sador's, I guess, more polished, I would say, in a sense, coming out. So, I mean, I see a whole bunch of negatives up there, they say, but I think when you get into the concept of the game, it's who understands it the best and the fastest. So, and if you're comparing him to Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy was actually a pretty good quarterback when
He
he's in
was.
there.
He was.
So,
All right. So CJ's got Shadur. I've got Cam Ward. Wesley, what do you say?
It's difficult to definitively say which 2025 NFL quarterback prospect's going to have the best year. It's just a lot of factors into it with the
Hmm.
team fit, individual development. I mean, look at the situation between Jane Daniels did very well, but Bo Nix did extremely well also, and that was part of being in the system, Sean Payton. However, Cam Ward with Miami, him and Shadee, I would say, are considered probably the top two contenders for the prospects of 2025. But Jalen Milroe had a good count, and Jackson Dart, no miss. Even Tyler Show for Louisville is looking pretty good. Um, so, I mean, it's tough to say. Um, I see a lot of, Cam Ward is just a freak athlete. All of these guys I just mentioned are roughly the same in stature, around 6'2" or
Yep.
so. Cam has probably more athletic ability, but I see a lot of indecisiveness with him, like I do Levis. So, to be honest with you, I mean, I think I like the fact that Shador came from, you know, historic black college university and then went on to Colorado and did well. Kind of shows me, he he can progress, to that next level.
Yeah.
And we know that my man Neon Dion, we know the success he brings and the attitude he has. So I got to agree with CJ. I like Shedeur to probably have a better 2025 year.
All right. What say you, Mr. James?
Yeah, this one for me is a little tough, right? Because at first I was kind of been thinking Jalen Milroe would be probably the guy would have a better better start. But then I'm kind of looking at it, man. There's a lot of like Wes said, there's a lot of inconsistency with some of these QBs, and now I'm kind of back to Shador. I'm thinking maybe he might have the better early start.
Okay.
And when you say career and early start, it kind of it could be a little bit different. But I'll say I think he's gonna have the better start, for some years down because he keeps his eyes down the field. Of course, mobility is not a problem for most of these QBs in this class.
Yeah.
So I don't see that, but his ability to pump fake, which is always good. He stands in the pocket, and when we talk about black quarterbacks, I've been talking about this for a while. Every time we have these conversations, is the inaccuracy or the inability to stay in the pocket. And if you're able to stay in the pocket and take a little bit of punishment, I think that goes a long way. Opens up the field, and you're able to make plays downfield. So, of course, who knows? Nobody knows, but I think for me, I'll just go with Shador right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, and a lot of people right now, I think he is the favorite. Um, and just off a lot of mock drafts that we've seen out there, whether it's on ESPN, whether it's on Fox, whether it's on NFL Network, a lot of those teams, I really do see. You look at he has a good chance of going to either Cleveland or New York. Has what the early stances have been on him, picking him. We'll see where he gets drafted. I do think, and it stands for itself, as it shows right here, 71.8% completion. Hey, he's very accurate with the ball. He fires intermediate rifle shots accurately. That's one of the main things you want to look for in a quarterback in the NFL. So, um, he hits a lot of check marks. I mean, they want to be, trying to knock him, saying they're not explosive. Hey, that's what he does. He's a quarterback. But I have seen, and a lot of times when they saying not an explosive athlete, you don't necessarily have to be explosive in the NFL. Tom Brady wasn't explosive, and he won how many
Exactly.
rings? So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think his stats and his career have stood for itself, whether it was at Division two, as CJ said, or going to Colorado. I think he's had an awesome career. I think he's going to have a great career in the NFL. Um, and we'll just see how everything turns out. Did anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, John, I'll add to that too. Also, too, depending on, which team you go to, also, that number one pick is always one of the toughest ones because you're going to a team that's completely broken down and it's hard
Yeah,
to have success.
right. It's all about the team and how they're going to set you up for success. All right, we'll move on to question number 2 for this evening. And that question is, why are NBA coaches fired just a few years removed from winning a championship? So these are the coaches right here that actually have been fired, and we had one recently, which was Mike Malone in your far left of the photo. You have Budenholzer, who won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. Frank Vogel, also with the Los Angeles Lakers. You also have Ty Lue, which he actually bounced back. Um, and he's with the Clippers. Actually, they won today and beat the Golden State Warriors. And so you also have head coach for the Toronto Raptors. That was back in 2019. That was after he won with Kawhi Leonard. So, question is, and I'll start this one off. I'll ask Wes first. I'll go to James next, then followed by CJ, and then myself last. So, Wes, what do you think, man? Why are these NBA coaches getting fired just a few years after winning the championship in the NBA?
Well, for one, I'd say LeBron James.
You said LeBron James. Okay.
Kid. A lot of the coaches, maybe it's a combination of factors, as far as our new blood and focusing on maximizing star players and whatnot, and general managers or management. The Michael Malone one really, really hit me to where I was like, man, this is wild. Because, it is just like roughly between, 1 or 2 years after the fact.
Yeah.
Example, Nick Nurse, I think he wasn't, or yeah, he was on there with
Nick Nurse.
Toronto Raptors, and now he's a 76ers head coach. And even Taylor Jenkins being fired from Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know. I'd like to say it's like new ownership coming in, but that's only been, really just kind of one program. But maybe it's just an impatient league. It's just kind of, what have you done, for me lately, or not so much what's in it for me now is what they're asking. It's a rapidly changing league. You got to stay competitive. If that means firing a coach who recently won a championship, they're going to do it. I think a lot of people are they're intentionally moving away from that dynasty model or getting the big three on short or long term, and they're just looking for, short term. So, I really don't know. There's a lot of things. Sometimes you need a scapegoat. I'm not really sure, but all of those guys are amazing coaches, and I think I'm sure we'll see Malone and some others down the road. But honestly, I don't know. There's a lot of variables just involved with it. I can't put my finger on the one thing, but it's become the norm, and it's not alone. It's happening everything from NCAA basketball to football. It's just becoming a norm these days.
I gotcha. All right, James, what you got, man?
Hey, I was thinking about the same words, Wes. I was like, "What have you done for me lately?" It's pretty much the type of thing where it is. But you made a good point, Wes. It's really not what you've done for me lately, because lately they've won a championship within
Yeah.
the last several years. So it's what have you
Yeah.
done for me now? And I think the shift is, teams are getting impatient because it's a win now league, and I think that's the problem. A lot of teams are, putting players together, and they're spending a lot of money on these rosters, and you can't get the job done. A lot of teams are expected to win now with the type of rosters they're building up. And if you can't win now, maybe we could find somebody else who can do the job. And we know a lot of these coaches, like you said, they won a championship, so they're good coaches. But at the same time, too, where's the program headed? Kind of looking at some teams like Milwaukee, it's almost like, man, I don't know, maybe with some injuries or whatever, but man, they're underachievers, man. And sometimes you wonder what's going on. Yeah, you won a championship several years ago, but what's that? We put even better pieces around you, But sometimes I think these uh, um, programs, they believe that if you have a lot of talent together, you should win, but it's not always that. It says cohesiveness is building a team, camaraderie, working together as a team and trying to really develop that. And some coaches just can't get that out of a group of players put together. Some coaches just don't have it. Some coaches are better working with not that many superstars on a team, because then they know they only got one go-to guy. you know.
Right.
Uh, so yeah, it makes it a little bit easier to coach when it's like that. But when you have dominant players put together, it's a little bit more complicated. Sometimes you have to find the right coach with the right mentality that's going to actually be able to coach these multi superstars being together. When you look at the league, there's quite a few superstars together that's underachieving, and it's like, what's going on? Why is this not working? You just need the right coach, or it's not the right fit within these players. So yeah, they got to move on. They want to win now. That's why they're putting these teams together.
Gotcha, man. CJ, what do you got?
James touched on it a bit. He did, but tell you the truth, man, just looking at the picture and stuff, and if you really think about it, the way the league has been going, yeah, it is a what we call my nickname for it is a microwave. It's a microwave league now. football, basketball, everybody wants it ready. You know, they want it right now. They don't want to let the process, kind of mature in a
Yeah.
certain way. But tell you the truth, NBA in particular, it's the problem right now with all these teams, with these five at least right here, it's a players league. It's a players league. Now, Denver, they won in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
They fired him 2 years later. They fired him earlier this year.
Well,
You
yeah,
know what the problem was?
Mike Malone just got fired. What was it? Thursday, Friday? Right after
So
that. Yeah, it was
so
just
the problem
Thursday
so the
fired him.
problem is he lost the locker room. Management now with NBA, and this is why I believe them. Management with the NBA, they gonna sit there and look at the coach. Coach is supposed to try to bring all that talent together, right?
Mm-hmm.
But who's your highest paid player? Who's your franchise player? And they were probably going to talk to that person. In particular for Denver, they're going to talk to Joker. Joker, what's going on? If they see that the your star player and the head coach ain't getting along, it's more than likely they're going to lean towards the player. The player brings in the money. We can get a replacement coach and bring somebody else in there. Boom, he gets fired. Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis wins. Now they make all these other moves. They should. And I remember Bucks was under injuries and stuff like that, but still they lost critical games they shouldn't have lost or whatever. Cool. Giannis is not happy with the coach. They go talk to Giannis. I think that's how you're making this so fast. You
Right.
talk to the star player. You talk to the star player. Star player not happy. They're gonna make a change. Lakers. That was the bubble year.
Yeah, we
That
had a
was
bubble year.
LeBron and them.
Oh yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah.
Hey, LeBron and the coach wasn't getting along. All right, cool. We're gonna bring in somebody we like for LeBron. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nick Nurse. I think Nick Nurse's issue was because they couldn't keep Kawhi. If they was able to keep Kawhi, he'd started. He'll probably still be the head coach. But because they weren't able to keep Kawhi, he had to go because the dynamic of the team changed. And then same thing with the Cavs. Cavs lost to Golden State and kept losing to Golden State until LeBron ended up, you know what I'm saying, leaving in the
Right.
end. But so it goes to show that this is, I believe again, it's a player league. It's a player league, and the players have the power. If there's an argument or discrepancy between them and the head coach, that's what's been causing all these firings.
All right. Well,
At
let me
least on
jump
the
in.
NBA
Now,
side.
I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna say, and I think a lot of what you guys have already stated, definitely been true. I want to just throw in I think may have touched on it a little bit. Out of the first, okay, so out of Mike Malone's case, out of this year, you had Jamal Murray injured a lot of games. Not only him being injured, some of the other key players for Denver was injured. Joker played most of the year, but then when you have those other injuries with other players, they lost a lot of games. Look, and they ended up making the fourth seed this year. That's why I'm kind of curious. Why would you fire him? He still made it, even with all the injuries, they still made it to the fourth seed in the West. To me, that must be either a owner having an issue with the coach or something like that. That's just me. That's my thoughts. Let's go to Budenholzer. Hoser. All right. Milwaukee Bucks won the title. Giannis first ring. All right. Then you turn around and fire him later. Well, that year, okay, when they fired him, well, you didn't have your second go-to guy was Chris Middleton. He was injured a lot of games. And Drew Holiday, I mean, and him and Giannis couldn't hold it all together. So that was another injury. Okay, let's fast forward to the Lakers. We won out of bubble, like you guys said. Next year, we had a whole bunch of injuries. Whole bunch of injuries, and it depleted us. Even LeBron, I think, missed I don't know how many games that year. How would you expect him? Your best player is out. I don't understand it. Nick Nurse with the Toronto Raptors. I can't remember if it was one player or two on that team. I know they have Van Vliet with Kawhi and Siakam, but when you have those injuries, and the same thing with Ty Lue. Ty Lue was a great coach. Anytime you take a team to four straight NBA finals, that's an accomplishment, and you won one. So I didn't understand it, but I will say, as you guys said, CJ said it, hit it on the head. It's a microwave league, and they want stuff done now. The last thing I will say about that before we move on, and then I'll let somebody get some rebuttals. I believe that it depends more on the team and the organization, and that it also depends on the head coach slash the general manager, and they have to work as one. Because if they don't work as one, it's not going to last long. I give you two teams that have been pretty good lately. One is the Boston Celtics. They've given the head coach the reins. He's working well. He has his plan. His scheme: shoot as many threes as you want. He's got players that shoot threes. You have the open. They have free reign. That's a great organization. Been there like that for years. And then the last one I was going to make mention of, they're not necessarily winning as of right now, but Miami Heat, Pat Riley has had the same coach with Spoelstra down there for years now. You don't see him getting fired, so I really do believe it depends on that owner slash the general manager and whoever's over him, giving them freedom to have at it with the team. Anybody have anything to add before we go on?
Sure, I agree. Some loyalty to from owners to some coaches. You got that relationship. I think that allows you to kind of hang in there a little bit longer too. And
Yes,
kind of show with with that. And then on only two. And this is not a rebuttal, but what CJ said is true. It seemed like the players hold the power. But the problem is, should they? And how does that really affect the team? And I'm not saying let's answer that because that could go on forever.
yeah, they're going forever.
But yeah, but it's crazy. It shouldn't be like that, but it is.
I agree. Totally agree. Totally agree. All right, question number 3 for tonight. What NBA team is your favorite as of right now to win the NBA Finals? And so I want to say this and preface this with we do have some play-in games on Tuesday. We have the Hawks versus the Magic, the Grizzlies versus Warriors, and then on Wednesday we have the Heat versus the Bulls, Mavs versus Kings. So audience, we're only going to select out of the top 12 teams, 6 out of the East, 6 out of the West. Out of the East you got the Cavs, the Celtics, the Knicks, the Pacers, the Bucks, the Pistons. Out of the West you have the Thunder, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, and the Timberwolves. So we'll start that question off with James. And what team do you have as your favorite to win the finals, just out of those 12 teams as of right now?
Hey, right now, I'm gonna say the Boston Celtics. Now, I was kind of looking at
Okay.
those top teams to really kind of look to see, who really has the best chance. And Boston Celtics, it's hard to really, not, put them as the top team again, because defense win championships. I don't care what people say. These teams scoring 130 points a game. Defense win championship because ultimately it's the team that's gonna make stops. Whether you're scoring a whole bunch, those stops that come when you make those stops, that gives your team other opportunity, extra opportunity to put up more shots. So right now they're number 2 in the league behind Orlando, and they 107 points per game they're allowing, and that's actually in this day and age, it's like good defense, right? But
Mhm.
everybody else is way up there. But 107.4, and then not only that, they defend the 3-point shot really well, which means they're closing out on a 3-point shot which you need to do because right now we know it's a 3-point shooting league, and that's what allows accumulation of these threes. Most of these teams are taking 30 something threes a game. That's ridiculous nowadays. Listen to those numbers, but they're closing out. And not only that, on offense, they're still right there, top of the league in offense. Number 8 in points scored, and then number 9, excuse me, in 3-point percentage. So their offense is still always there. And you can see if you watch Boston play, man, they space the floor. They know how to space the floor, and they're knocking down shots. Like everybody can shoot the ball, which is just impressive to just watch their team play.
Gotcha. So we'll go to CJ. Who is your top team in the NBA right now, as of right now, going to the finals, just out of those 12?
I ain't gonna lie to you, man. It's gonna probably be Boston, bro. And and it's all the reasons that James had already just mentioned. What also James didn't touch on, or he touched on it, but then you know what I'm saying. They're third, I think he said, in 3-point percentage, right? Do you
Right.
know that they? Do you know that Boston has broke the record for the most 3 points made for the
Mm-hmm.
season? They're
Mm-hmm.
leading. So they're, as much as they got a high 3-point rating, they also making the most threes.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's great to have good defense, but it's also better to have a better make sure you have a good offense. And like I said, to me, I'm gonna be honest with you. Boston is probably like it's probably like the old school Spurs. They're not It's not really entertaining to see. You know what I'm saying? It's like to me, they're the we know Tatum and Brown, but they just operate. You know what I'm saying? They just
Mm-hmm.
operate. Sometimes it's not all flashy. You know, if you get what I'm saying. It's not
Yeah.
flashy
Oh yeah.
with these other teams, with Denver, with the Lakers, with the Timberwolves. You know what I'm saying? Even with the Cavs, it's entertaining. You know what I'm saying? That get you a basket. You see them work to get that basket. Boston is like an old school Spur team. They do what they got to do to get done, and that's all you got to do. You know what I'm saying? You do that, you do it well, you find yourself back in the NBA Finals. So right now, that's why I think Boston will probably be the ones again to take it.
All right. Wes, what say you?
I have the Oklahoma Thunder. I like the Thunder based off of their youth, and I know that could be kind of a double edged sword there. Either it could lead you to a pretty good young championship or a dynasty. 1 second, my daughter was yelling. I was outside. Um, or it could be it could be kind of uh, hinder hinder the journey there.
Yeah.
But I could have said Celtics too. I mean, it was a close two for me. They do have great depth, probably the best depth in the league. However, Jalen Brown, they're going to need a healthy Jalen Brown for the stretch for them to truly have me pin him in as number one. And right now, I think his knee injury. I think it's a lot more serious than letting out just because you're having to manage your pain, getting injections here and there.
Right.
Generally, that's something that is a lot more serious and requires probably some off-season surgery. But you mentioned Spolstra and some other and Pat Riley. I'd say hats off to GM Brad Stevens for what he's done in Celtics for sure. But I'm going to go with the Thunder for my favorite to win the NBA this year.
Well,
Yeah, they
I'll
they
make I'll
need a
make a
healthy they need a healthy Porzingis too. Don't get that. Yeah, don't forget that one.
and I was also going to say, so it's not Brad. So, and I know you said Brad Stevens. I know he's actually what the general manager now. However, I was going to say Joe Mazzulla is the one that head coach and won the ring last year for the Celtics. Just to make that statement, and that's why I was saying about schemes earlier with the other question we had. His philosophy is we're going to stop teams from shooting threes so well, but we're going to shoot as many as we want. So that's his game plan. That's his scheme. He does have two of the main guys. Those are two guys right there who I think are great at running people off the 3-point line, and they work well together. So they're gonna get your best scores, like shooting guards, small forward, whatever, and they're gonna just try to make their day hills. So those are you guys' favorites, and mine is pretty much the same one you had, Wes, and that is Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, granted, I got the Thunder, and I love Shea Alexander. He's lead scorer, number one scorer in the league, 32.7 points per game. Now, I would love to see this team right here do something, which is my team. I just had to throw that in. But the one thing I noticed just yesterday, watching the game with the Lakers, I think Father Time is starting to catch up with LeBron. I noticed at the about at the end of the game, they were blowing the team out yesterday. We were playing, and LeBron was so gassed, like going to the bench. I would love to see how much energy he brings in these first few games in the playoffs. I'm going to be watching that very carefully because me personally, I'm starting to think all the tread on the tires is starting to catch up. Hey, he may go get some juice or some type of, he pays a lot of money that, he puts into his body. He may get something worked out where he feels better and rejuvenated and, later on and looks fine. But I'm gonna be honest, I just have to be honest with myself, even as a fan. I was just like, man, I feel like he's gonna be super gassed going into the playoffs just because of how much he has to do um, in the game and how much he's carried even before Luka got to the team. Now, Luka being there, he's gonna get his. Austin Reeves, he's gonna get his. I just like to see how the rest of the players for the Lakers do. But my squad I'm picking for this year. Sorry, it is OKC. Um, I think picked when we were talking about them last year as far as a Western team, it was those guys. And I'd like the addition of Caruso, bringing over him over from the Bulls, and just what the continuity they had from last year. So that's my pick is OKC. So we're gonna see if we can get a OKC and a Celtic matchup in the final, since that's what the four of us picked today. We'll get Amand on there to be the tiebreaker when he gets on. All right, next question. Did anybody have anything to add to that question before we move on? All right, we will go to question number 4 for this evening, and that is, what NBA team do you have the least confidence in out of the East or the West team? So let me recap again, once again, what those 12 teams are. Out of the East, it's the Cavs, the Celtics, the Knicks, the Pacers, the Bucks, and the Pistons. And the West is the Thunder, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Timberwolves. Me personally, and I'll start this off for us guys. Just because I don't know what they're gonna look like in the playoffs, because I hadn't seen him there in so long, I'm gonna say the Pistons. I do understand, them having Cunningham there on that team. They're getting better. Can I say that they're gonna be one of the favorites out of the matchups early? I can't say that. So me personally, just by default, out of the 12 teams we got, I gotta go with the Pistons. Just because we don't know about them. There's a lot of things they haven't been tested. This is their first time being in the playoffs in years. Granted, props and kudos to them because they did get into the playoffs this year. But it's just because of the unknown. They haven't been experienced. You're playing against possibly what for them going against the Knicks. Now the Knicks, I don't know how well Jalen Brunson is, but they still got Karl Anthony Towns. They still got some dogs on that team with heart. So I really do feel like, hey, they may be the team, and maybe I'll eat my own words. I may eat crow later, but I got the Pistons as of right now as my least confident team I have going in the playoffs. What say you, Wesley? And then I go to CJ.
Well, I think for me it's the Knicks,
Okay,
and
the Knicks.
you hit in on the head there with Jalen Brunson and the ankle injury and all. But I think just their play overall is just very inconsistent. You do have Towns, but teams are going to focus in and they're going to double team and put pressure on him, and it's just a lot of pressure going into where you're going to have to, pretty much be a joker and get a triple double for your team to advance. But they have a below average defense, and it just I don't know. I just feel like that the Knicks are going to be my selection there. I got the least confidence in going into the playoffs.
Gotcha. Who do you got, CJ?
I agree with Wes, man. I was going to say the Pistons too, based off of their lack of experience in the playoffs. They're the young team coming into this thing or whatnot. They got a lot to prove, but now once you get to the playoffs, I tell people all the time. Now you get to the playoffs, it's going to be who can remain the healthiest. Who's going to be the healthiest to get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
It's not, and your best team, could be the least healthy, i.e., Golden State. The year they lost everybody
Yeah,
going
the
through the
one that,
playoffs.
yeah.
Yeah, going through the
Wow.
playoffs.
Yeah.
So just due to injuries. So injuries play a big factor. So just like he said, New York Knicks. If I already know that Jalen Brunson is already out, not or he's not, you know what I'm saying, he was your number one scorer, one or two scorer for the team. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not expecting the Knicks to hang around. I'm not expecting them to even get out the first round. You see what I'm saying? So I know they'll give you hard defense, but with the younger teams, with them young guys, you could push them through effort. That's why I can see why you say OKC has a good. Those young guys got energy. They'll give you that effort. So, but yeah, for this time around, you already got injuries building up. Yeah, for me it'll be the Knicks just
Gotcha.
off jump.
Okay. And yeah, so and I will say that should I don't know if he's going to play. I'm actually looking up the injury report for that now. Um, we shall see. That team, yeah, it seems like they've been dealing with injuries this year, the Knicks, so that's definitely done hurt them a lot. I will also say the Bucks, just because of the uh, I don't know if there was a blood clot with Dame Lillard. And so the Milwaukee Bucks is the other team that I think had some injuries. What would you say about that, James? Who's your least favorite team or least confident team that you have confidence in going in playoffs?
Yeah, you know what? The funny thing is, I too chose the Knicks. Kind of looked up, thought about where they're at, where they're ranking against some of these top teams that's sitting there, and they're looking pretty solid. They're pretty solid in offense, number 9 in points scored in the league, 3-point percentage at number 10. So when they're shooting the three well, also even their defense is pretty decent, pretty solid because they're number 9 in points allowed. So that's why I was kind of looking at it. There's a lot of other teams that just bring a lot. Sometimes it's that swag, and it's that swagger, and I just
Hmm.
kind of looking at my team. That's my team. So, but I have to be honest, like if I'm really just kind of assessing and really looking, and just be honest with myself,
Yeah.
I feel like, they're kind of probably be on the short end of everything. And for some reason, I love Anthony Towns. But I just feel like sometimes, defensively, I just don't feel like his presence is as well good as I would like it to be playing against other big men. Um, and yeah, look, it breaks my heart just talking about it because I really would love to see us make it through, but I know it's gonna be hard, especially talking about injuries and things like that. I know Jalen Brunson, he was injured and he came back, but now we're talking about possibly more injuries. Of course, Detroit would be the easy team to pick because they're new to this. It's their first year, and I don't expect a team with experience to really go far, but at the same time, they're healthy, they're young, and they're playing great defense as well. The stats match up against each other. If you look at Detroit, they're not too far from the defensive points allowed behind the Knicks. I think they're like number 14, but the point differential is not that much as well. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting year, watching those teams, especially, like I said, out of the I'm looking to see how, and we'll see. We got some young teams in the playoffs this year. One being the Pistons, two being the Rockets. The Rockets got the number 2 seed in the West, and they're very young. So I'm looking to see how that's going to play out. But, you know, we'll see who they have in that play-in game. We'll find out sometime maybe Friday as we go into the weekend, this coming up week, who they will play. All right, let's go to question number 5 for tonight. And that question is, if you were the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, what changes would you make, if any, regarding your superstars, Joel Embiid and Paul George, who has not played much during the season? So we'll start that one off with James, and then we'll work our way to CJ, and then Wes, and then followed by myself.
Man, this is crazy. It's crazy, right? I, honestly, what I would do is I would break it up, but it's hard to break it up because I think Paul George is so he's always injured. I don't see how nobody realized that. They give this guy a max contract over 200 something $1 million and it's guaranteed money, 40-year contract, and this dude's always hurt. And I don't see how nobody sees that. To pay these players, I would put a stigma up in the contract to say if you get injured, then you're not guaranteed this money because it seems like you're just throwing money away, paying these players, and then they sitting fat, and the city got nothing forward to no forward to nothing to look forward to.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I think I would definitely break it up. I would definitely send out I just lost his name. I don't know where my mind went, but I definitely would send him away because Embiid is your centerpiece. We know he's like
Yeah.
the cornerstone of your franchise, and Maxey, we see how he's quickly developed. He's an explosive point guard. I'd keep these two going, but bring some other pieces. It don't have to be a big three. Trade Paul
Right.
George, bring in some other couple pieces that's gonna fit around these superstars because you don't have to have because what you need two superstars and you need solid players around you, shooters, people who's committed to playing defense. That's what's gonna win you, like that tough basketball, that Detroit Piston 1990s. I think it was 1990s
Yeah, it was
type
late
of
80s, early
basketball.
90s, and actually in
Exactly.
2000 as well. A lot of people
Exactly.
forget that Ben Wallace team. No.
Yeah, I'd leave it there because as a fan, I'm not satisfied. I'd be really disappointed to know we put a big three together, and so far it seemed like everybody's injured, taking turns being injured, and it
Yeah,
really doesn't look promising.
gotcha. What do you say about it, CJ? What do you
Well,
think they should do with him?
it's not to me. Yeah, blow it up, bro. To me, the thing is like Joel Embiid itself can't stay healthy, and when it comes down to this, to a playoff run, um, the teams that are getting over the hump or getting by there, they're having what James mentioned. They're having great guard play, teamwork, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Paul George is not your best two-way guard out there no more. You know what I'm saying? He is. He can come off the bench. You see what I'm saying? Like some of these guys don't want to admit it, but you'll do better coming off the bench and helping the second squad, the second in that level. Right now, they need some real good guard play. Maxie's okay, but they need somebody else. They don't. It's not so much about scoring. It needs to be great guard play, that defense out here. Embiid, they need to. He doesn't need to be the first. I don't think he needs to be the primary scorer. He doesn't. I think because that's worked against him for so long.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's why he's picking up all these injuries. He needs to be your second, third. I say your second or third option. In truth, I'm being for real. It's because they rely so heavily onto him instead of the ball there being ball flow. You know what I'm saying? It can get stagnant. That's part of the reason why Jimmy left. You know what I'm saying? It's not a lot of team ball being played out here. You look at the nature of basketball, it's team ball. Shift, side to side. Get these players. You're searching for mismatches out here, and I think for so long they relied on Embiid, and Embiid himself doesn't want to admit that neither. So as a fan, I'm disappointed that you had all this talent come through there, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I got you.
They,
All right, well, Wes, I'm gonna let you jump in, and then I'll go last.
Yeah, I don't know about blowing it totally up, but I would definitely, I wouldn't have signed Paul George for sure just off of that. I mean, he is Mr. Glass. Um, but you can't fault someone for wanting to get max money at any point in time. and there are idiots out there willing to pay max money. So, kudos to him and his team. That was like a Bobby Bonilla of trades. But I I think the main thing, the two all stars that they have on the team that they need to focus around is Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Uh, they need to build around the strengths, but as you mentioned, when you're paying these big name stars, you're up against the cap and there's penalties. And so basically you're having to play money ball now to find someone who can congeal with that team.
Yeah.
So you're looking for three people with a shooting average of .347 and you're on the board and you're just, almost the whole money ball from Brad Pitt. And that's what becomes difficult, right? Now, when you give these max contracts and you're paying out this max money for long periods of time, it just kind of, it hinders your team. And now where do you go? Now you're going to have to blow it up or a good bit or give out a chunk and try to work the draft. There are areas that they significantly need to improve on, including adding role players and getting a strong defender in there and a more consistent bench. But, you've handcuffed yourself
Right.
on these big money deals, and that's what's difficult. So the draft strategy coming in now is basically you're just, you're hoping that you can acquire that player, that valuable player in the draft now, and can hope he can contribute and be part of the team as opposed to getting a veteran player, because with a veteran player that costs more money. So I don't know, man. I mean, I do like the coach. I like Nick Nurse. I know he's coming back next year. Um,
Yep.
but again, as we talked earlier, we alluded to, it's win now mentality, and they're not built right now to win, and that's the issue. So I feel like next year, if they're not getting it right, Nick Nurse and others are going to have a new home.
Well, let me throw this in there. There is only one, actually two players off that Philadelphia 76ers team to actually even get close to there's 82 games in the season, right? Um, there was only one player, and I want to make sure I say his name correctly. Yabusele. He had 70 games played this year, and Council, the fourth guard, 72 games, but he only played or started in 12. Your top players, Maxey played in 52, Embiid only 19, Paul George only 41. You're starting shooting guard Quentin Grimes, he started in
Hold on.
24 games out of
Paul George is how old?
no. Paul George only played in 41 games.
Oh,
And so when you have it like that, my thing is, if you're playing these players that much money, like James started off the comments by saying that you playing these players all this money, but they're not even you're not even playing some of them are not even playing half of the season. And so that was my first thing. And the only reason why I wanted to go last because I picked this team last year, if you guys can remember, and after the draft was going on and they got Paul George, I was like, okay, that's my team out the East. I was so disappointed. I'm not a fan of them, no, but that was the team I picked out the East to challenge the Celtics and maybe the Bucks. But two things happened. Embiid needs to take care of his body. I don't know if y'all watched him in the Olympics last year. He did play well, but if you notice, when he's trying to come back into the league, and then after that, after they break from the Olympics, man, he didn't come in. He didn't look well at all. Not physically, like he had been working out. None of that. And let me just say it like this: I don't know who it is that's over that department, but they got to say, hey man, how great do you want to be? If you really want to be great, you're gonna have to take care of your body. That's part of it. That's part of the process if you're a superstar athlete, whatever. So that's number one. He has to buy in. And then the second thing with him, he going at the reporter and he wants to hit the reporter. Come on, man. I mean, if you want the ring, I mean, hey, certain things, and I'm not saying that, somebody said something to him, he goes at him, he makes it somebody's family. But even in that, if you're going to be the leader of the team, hey, you got to set the example. That's number one. Other than that, man, it's just a lot of inconsistencies with the gameplay. Uh, the NBA players now, I'm just saying it like it is. The NBA players today are nowhere near what the players we had from the 80s, 90s. Man, you break a nail, some of these guys going to the straight to the bench. So I'm just like, what's going on? Like, oh, I got a bruise on my elbow. Man, let me tell you about a guy named Kobe Bryant. The man had a torn Achilles, and you had to drag him off the court so he can go shoot a free throw before they had to pull him to the side with a torn Achilles, man. So let's think about this for a second. But you got players that barely have an injuries or a scratch, and they ready to fold, and they getting paid 20 and 30 million dollars. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that because that was the team I picked, and it really kind of, yeah, it really
But
kind of
that's it.
cracked me up.
The mindset seems like now it's money over championships. Same
Yes,
thing with the kids in the
yes,
NCAA and all. They
yes,
want their money, and they could give less if it means a championship for them. That's why you see them sitting out of bowl games. That's why you see
yes.
them. It's not a great. It's not a
Not a great
great
look.
feel. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the old, like you alluded to, the '90s and Bulls and Pistons series. It is not that for sure.
Yeah. So and that's what I think it is, and it's a lot of. I agree, Wes. It's a lot of players. Some that really want the championship ring, and then there's others that just want money. If I'm one of those guys that really want the ring, I'm sorry, but I'm separating myself from the one that just want money. That's just me. But anyway, I'd rather have both. Give me the money and the ring. Last question for the night, and that is going to the college football talks. So, with Tennessee moving on and away from Nico Iamaleava, is this going to be a trend we see with more teams and NIL negotiations breakdown moving forward? Wes, I know this is yours. I'm gonna let you start off with that. I'll go to James, and then I go to CJ, and I go last as well.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more teams to go through with it, but there's definitely got to be some sort of players union or something formed, and I think it's coming. They're going to have to do something to standardize these compensation for these NIL deals. Establish benchmarks like the NFL as far as the salaries based for position, experience, performance. Um, that's probably going to be the only way they can get a hold of this thing by maintaining, somehow balancing the whole roster and players' desire for compensation and what that compensation is. But who wouldn't think that they could ask or get more when you have was it Carson Beck leaves Georgia and goes to Miami?
All right.
It doubles up his NIL deal, uh, gets his Lambo and Rolls Royce and whatever else. Sure, stolen that same week, but he got it. So I mean, I can see it, but the NCAA, they're going to have to establish some guidelines for these deals, and they're going to have to get better transfer portal practices and really balance the interests of the schools and players and all of college sports community is what's going to happen. Like I said, it's going to have to be some sort of players union or framework set up. Nick Saban alluded to it several years ago that NIL is going to kind of be the death of college football. And it's just kind of not necessarily proven to be the depth of it, but it is definitely leading to some inconsistent compensations of players and teams. And the powerhouses, their money, their NIL money, and all. They're just going to have to. We're going to have to figure out how to not overpay and help better these others, because it used to be.
Let me
right,
jump in. Let me jump in. Let me get James in there for the time's sake. Let me get James in for his quick take, and then we'll come back to you, Wes. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was a good response by Tennessee to be able to stand strong on that and say, hey, you could walk if you want to, because they have to, kind of set that precedence for any other teams to know how to respond to that, knowing, hey, we're not going to let these players just start being demanding and sitting out of games and things like that. So another thing that Wes had, we was talking earlier, Wes had mentioned, it's like crazy said some of these college players getting paid more than like Jalen Daniels, who on this rookie contract. That does not make no
Yeah,
sense. There's no way as a professional level you
yeah,
should be getting paid less than some college player. I don't even barely watch college. You know why? Because a lot of them are not gonna make it far. A lot of them are hyped. They don't prove themselves when they get to the big leagues. Some of them fold, some of them make it. So I don't need to watch all that. I wait there. If you're really a true professional, when you come there, you're gonna shine, you're gonna excel, and I'm gonna know who you are. That's that for me. That's sports in a nutshell. I love sports. I watch too much sports with all the different brands of sport, and I can't watch all of them. Imagine watching baseball, football, basketball, and then watching the college with the million of games they got. So I gotta take it somewhere. But either way, I totally agree. These guys should not be getting away with that. These teams should, set a standard, and I think there should be, like I said, maybe some player association or whatever they kind of set up to kind of start kind of working that to where they have a bare minimum you can make. Nobody should make more than others. I don't care who you are. Y'all all part of a team. Set a standard, a limit, $1 million contract per year if you want to do it like that, or 1 million for the entire 4 year. You're already getting a free college scholarship. All right, so you get $1 million, you could buy yourself a house and buy yourself a nice car, and you're going to school for free. But if those standards are not set, this is what's going to happen. Players get greedy, and next thing you know, people love college basketball, they love college football, they love college sports. You know why? Everybody I talk to, they say, you know what? Because they got heart. They don't care. It's not about the money. They're playing for heart because they want to get somewhere. They want to get to the big leagues. And I'm like, true, I understand that. But now here goes money being in the midst of it all. And here you go. People start sitting out games and doing this crazy stuff. So full circle.
very good hot take. Let's see what you got, CJ.
Actually, man, for real, I mean, I see nothing wrong with what Tennessee did. I mean, it's bad on the quarterback for him trying to be aggressive like that, but I don't feel like they don't need to do no player, no union or nothing like that. Reason being is because this is college, right? This is not everybody's going to be fair. This ain't no y'all trying to be professionals. I think there is a level of, hey man, if you got the money to pay for it, go for it. Every time you pay for it doesn't mean that you actually gonna get the best out of that player. You know what I'm saying? Just because
Right.
they're paying for the person, don't mean that that person is actually gonna come through on the end. I.e., the Yankees, i.e., the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's like people got money. The Boston Red Sox. Go, you know what I'm saying? It's teams that's been out here paying big money, but sometimes they don't come through. A lot of times they don't come through. But in the sense of college, though, in the sense of college, even if you do try to put something together to regulate it, it's because it's college. Somebody is going to be taken from that pot. It's not going to be. I don't see it being managed well. NCAA has a hard time already trying to do what they do already. So I don't want those presidents or whatever else having a hand in this either. The money was supposed to go to the players directly anyway. That's what the
Right.
whole thing was about. People saying, "Oh, let's pay the players, let them get some little money or whatever." Cool. Now, this is the domino effect. This is something now. There ain't no try to box this in. No, y'all open the door. This is what you're gonna get. These players want to play like this. This is what you're gonna get. If somebody wants to pay this player $5 million to come play for this school, cool. The thing is, it's going. I think it's going to be on the player to balance himself. He thought he was better. He thought he was worth that. And Tennessee said, no, we're going to move on. That's what you need to. Tennessee did right. Because in the long run, it's going to get those other players to say, hey, I might not be worth that. You know what I'm saying? This, and this. So I don't think it needs to be regulated so much. I think the players just need to be educated on their own value and their own worth. That will put the market back into place in truth. I understand some of these guys are getting paid, making more money than some of the guys that are in the NFL or the professional. But tell you the truth, some of these folks won't even make it there. This is
Yeah.
all. This is going to be their biggest payday. Period. Some just
Exactly.
do college and then they fade out. They don't make it to the NFL. So make. I feel like make what you can, do what you can do, but it's because the people that are paying them, these people that these sponsors or whoever they're paying are paying, that's
Yeah.
their money. If you want to pay me your money to come play here, that's on you. But I also got to make sure I come up and perform if I accept that money. So I don't think it should be regulated. Tennessee did a great job on what they did, and that's why. And I think other colleges should do the same, so then they don't feel like they trapped.
All right. So let me finish this off. I will say that the question was, is this going to be a trend we see with more teams in NIL negotiations breakdowns, like the one we had with Tennessee and Nico Iamaleava? I think this is the reason why Nick Saban stated when he retired, this was part of the major reason why he wanted to retire, because he knew there was going to be a big blockade of getting the best out of his players when you have sponsors who are throwing money at them like never before, and you don't have that family member or that support or whoever that is that you're guarding or whoever your support is or your entourage or whoever that is, and they're not giving you sound advice to say, hey, no, I committed here. Let me hold out, even if you're not a starter. And that's why I give mad props to one player in particular, Arch Manning. He could have easily left Texas and went to play and start with somebody else. You know what? He said, you know what? I'm going to stay and wait. And he waited till Quinn Ewers said, I'm going to the NFL. And so now, even though he's like what, a redshirt junior, he's going out there and getting his first shine or spotlight where he has the reins totally to himself. But even in his waiting, it created more value for him. So now he has a chance to get NIL deals before. But that's the major thing. You have these players that are just going crazy. They see the money. They're trying to get as much as they possibly can. And as you said, CJ, you alluded to it. Um, it's going to be kind of crazy where you got a player like at a big school like Tennessee with all the network that SEC network has and to offer, and you're getting exposure and advertisement already, and
Hmm.
enough is not enough. And so I think it's going to be a constant. Every year we're going to see a player or two. Or see, this year right now, it's just right now we're early in the season. It's April, so you got spring football. This is just early, and this came out. You haven't even finished with spring football yet, and we got a player that's been cut from the team because he didn't want to get the deal that was given to him. So I think we're going to see more of it. Wait till the summer comes. I think we're going to see more. We saw one of them last year with the guy out of I think Vegas or one of the Vegas schools down where he was in the middle of the season. He's already getting stats in. He's playing well, but somebody missed his payment or whatever his the money the NIL money that was promised to him. He said, "No, I'm transferring." And I'm like, "Wow!" In the middle of the year, we're gonna see a lot more of this. This is just we haven't even scratched the surface. We're gonna see a lot of more crazy NIL big name players that are gonna, and this guy right here was a 5-star recruit.
But here's the thing though. Now the reason I'm okay with the NIL for the purpose of what we're saying
Hmm.
is because some smaller schools won't get no
Yes,
recognition.
they don't.
So they'll be willing to pay that. Cool, but you're going to a smaller school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But you're
Right.
gonna get your opportunity and you'll get a big payday. Cool. So NIL, in a sense, it was supposed, in a sense, I know what they was going with, or what the argument was. It was supposed to try to level the playing field between them Power 10 schools, Power 5,
Hmm.
SEC,
Hmm.
big, you know what I'm saying? So the smaller schools have a chance to compete. They still can have a chance to compete. They just got to pay for it.
Yeah, and the only reason why I'm saying that for this guy, and that's let me go back to him. So this is his first year last year. He had and I give him this credit for what he did. He had 213 completions out of 334 attempts, 63.8 completion percentage, 2,616 yards, 7.8 yards a pass, 19 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Now he's a freshman, so he came in. Um, last year he did well, but it's almost like I feel like he should have waited. Just give yourself time. The money that you really want, it will be there. Just continue to perform and get better, and then the money will come. Because now, if you're getting cut from Tennessee, who's to say that somebody in the SEC seeing what you did and you want more money? Some of these teams, some of these coaches. Now I know Dabo Swinney is one of them. He doesn't even care for all that. If you say you're leaving, bye, hit the door. You don't want to be here. We don't want you. And guess what? Some other teams are starting to pay notice of that. Like, well, if you're one of those players that just want the money, you coming to us? We don't want that either because they're having to deal with the same thing down the road. So who's to say he may not fall to another SEC team? He may now have to go to a Division 2 or a Division 3.
Bam.
And guess
Well,
what? When you did that, you just lost more money because now you're not getting the publicity that you would have got if you stayed with that big school before you go to the NFL.
well,
That's where the big money
that's
goes.
exactly right, John.
So,
And they even have it in the SEC because the spring portal is closed. He cannot transfer to any
no,
SEC team.
he
If
cannot.
he's playing football in this year, he is going to have to go outside of that.
Exactly.
So, he probably hurt himself. I know he hurt himself, but I feel like this is just going to continue. It's going to get worse and worse until it's somehow regulated.
Well, I agree. It's just one of those things, man, that the world we living with now with this NIL,
Mm,
it's as you said, it's done crept in. They
yeah,
wanted it, they got it,
the
and now
kids is
yeah,
absolutely.
now
Yeah,
we
how
got
much am I going to play, and how much am I going to get paid?
right. So that will end it for this show. For all of our audience, if you like us, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Subscribe to us on Facebook. Continue to watch us, like us. Continue to support. We thank you guys for watching. Everyone have a blessed week, and until the next time.